Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third podcast of the season 11 for PCN. I'm Saul Goodman Jr., and I am your host tonight. I'm joined by the legendary Dorsey.
Yo, yo, yo.
And tonight's panelists are Steel Data.
What's good?
Trev Meister.
What's up?
Vanquish.
What's up?
And Jay Way.
What's up, guys?
I hope everyone's doing well tonight. So everyone here has submitted questions based on the application, and we're just going to jump right into those. Tonight we're looking at the Golden Boot race for all three leagues. We'll start with Super League. Question being, which of the following Super League attackers do you expect to win or at least challenge for the Golden Boot at the end of the season? If you don't know, the current list, we'll run through the top 10 very quickly, is Chronic sitting atop at 16, Liverpool, Mad Kev tied with him, Smoke Break and Spicy are both at 13 goals, Lupe is at 12, joined by B-Dan, and Do You Louis Bro is at 11, FIFA Talentless is at 10, as well as Rowdy and Magic at 10, rounding out the top 10. So of those top 10, or even the top 20, the people following that shortly behind them, who do you guys think are going to be challenging or winning the Golden Boot for Super League?
And my question, I would put Chronic. It's just, he's had previous team of the seasons, and I've personally played with him. I was in Milan for a little bit, but then something happened, and then I ended up switching teams. But I don't know, he's just a really solid striker. I feel like he's one of the most consistent strikers. If anything, I feel like he at least has a goal a game, or if not more. And then you can see he left Milan, and he's now with Leon, with Smoke Break. I don't know who's the other attacker partnership they have up there, but he's still keeping his form, and it's a whole new team that he's playing with. So it shows that he's just a consistent striker overall. And honestly, especially just in Super League, it's hard to find strikers that can actually finish. Just from my personal experience.
I had Chronic up there too. As a goalkeeper, it's terrifying facing him because he's incredibly shifty at the top of the box, and he always finds a way to make space and get shots off when you don't think it's possible. And forward like that, it's hard to contain him, and he's going to score goals. I also had Smoke Break up there because he's really dangerous on corners and set pieces and stuff because he always plays 6'6". And, he always finds a way to get his head on the ball. And from what I see on their Instagram and stuff, he seems to be scoring pretty consistently. So those would be the two that I would have up top.
I agree with that Smoke Break. He plays tall, but if you manage to, I was also gonna add that if you manage to shut out Smoke Break and just put a tall CB with him, it really does damage their attack. Because when we played Benfica against them, we managed to put our tall CB with Smoke Break, so we really caught off that long X ball and then the flick, because we knew right off the back how they were gonna play. Just hit Smoke Break up in the air, and he's gonna flick it to Chronic.
Yeah, that 6'6" frame can be especially difficult to deal with, and then to pair it with a very shifty Chronic. They've been making a very dynamic duo over there. 36 goals for Leon already, and at the top right now of attacks in Super League. So, both those players are really playing well off of each other. I think they have to be mentioned here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The top four goal scorers are from two teams, and both of them did get a game against New York City where they really get some extra stats. But Lazio and Leon are both in the top six. They're both playing well, and you have Chronic and Smoke, and you have Kev and Spicy, and I think it's going to come from one of those four. But it'll be interesting if maybe if they can keep supplying each other, or if maybe one of them, the fact that they're both scoring so much, kind of lets someone else who's the dominant scorer on a team come through. And I think someone like Louis for us at Milan, I think he's just a very consistent finisher. He's like a goal a game. He's always been that. So I think outside that top four, he's kind of the one I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah, I also want to just kind of throw in that Chronic also has 10 assists, and that actually is tied for first. So I just wanted to shout him out. That's pretty impressive that he's first in goals and assists. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I give a shout out to Rowdy and FIFA Talentless, because they're actually doing work right now for Liverpool. 10 goals on each of them. I played a couple of games with Rowdy when we were back in Congo. I didn't even play though, but when I played with him for practices and all that, he definitely did work. He can definitely finish the balls, and I say he won't get the Golden Boot, but I could say he can get top 3 by the end of the season. If not him, then Talentless. Both of them good top scorers for Liverpool.
Yeah, they're both good players, but the one thing I will say, with a caveat to Liverpool attack, is they had 13 goals against NYCFC.
Yeah, I wanted to add that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of too early to tell because I'm not trying to bash or anything, but they played those lower class teams, and not to be fair, they didn't even have a full team in New York City after the whole original New York City dipped out. I mean, that's why like all their stats are inflated right now because they played teams that not like top level teams.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair assessment, and it's tough to judge, but you can't discount them for that. You know,
obviously, yeah,
they had an opportunity and they took it.
And I think what's interesting is a few players in the top 10 or close to it that have never been full-time strikers before. Talentless has been an attacking mid, a center mid, a wing, but he's never been a striker. Spicy's always been pretty much a left winger, play a little bit of cam, and now he's a striker. And then a little further down, B-Dan, who's NSGG Dan, that's his former gamer tag, he's always been a defender. And all of a sudden, he's up there for Arsenal scoring a bunch. So there's more and more players. I think you've seen some center backs go to cam, like Vols last season. You've seen that with Air Jesus this season as well. So you're seeing more defenders show up in the attack, which I think is just a fascinating trend that's never really been a thing before. So I'd be curious if that continues.
Yeah, I was actually my three. If you ever tune into the marquee matchup, I always root for the underdog. And if you look at this top 10, there are three players where their teams are outside of the top 10. They're inside the top 10, but you look at B-Dan, he mentioned Arsenal's sitting in 15th currently. You also have Lupe with PSG sitting in 17th, and then Magic Man for Man U sitting in 13th. So if I were to root for someone outside of that top four that are kind of pacing themselves already, those would be my three, just because I always root for the underdog. It's just it's interesting to see how a team that's not doing so well can still have a player that is playing very well.
Yeah, like I was about to say, Lupe, he has 12 goals in 10 games, and I mean, look at PSG; they're in 17th place. I mean, that's a quality striker right there.
No, yeah, Lupe is really good. I played with him for a season and a half at PSG, and he is, no matter whether PSG as a team are playing bad or good or mediocrely, he's always on form. He always finds a way to put the ball in the net, and he's kind of doing what Slacks did for PSG last season. I mean, even though we started off really slow last season, and even though they're not playing so hot right now, they have a guy that's keeping them in games, and that's Lupe this season.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at PSG as a whole has 18 goals, and Lupe has 12 of them in 10 games. I mean, he's pretty much carrying that PSG to their 1 win and 5 draws. If he had a little bit of help, there's no question that PSG would be moving up. And I know the legendary Stay High player is definitely going to be working on that moving forward. He's had a rough season 11, at least to start.
Yeah, Stay High's a really good manager. I mean, when I decided to leave PSG, there was no hard feelings between us. He's still a good friend of mine, and he understood why I left. But he's a class manager, and he'll find a way to turn that team around. He always does. So I got faith that they'll be back up towards mid-table at least, I think, by the end of the season.
Outside of the top 10, we have SF Batista, Stride, Stone, Eddie Disaster, Italiano, Friolito, A1 Buzzkill, King Turilich, and Winnie the Kid, and then Mars Paxis. Is there any of those that you think maybe they didn't have the strongest start to the season, but you think, in these coming weeks they can really turn it around just based on how well you know them or how you've seen them play?
I think more than half of them could finish in the top 5 or 10. Like, there's a lot of people in that list that you just named. I'm not gonna single anyone out because it's too early to tell, but there's a lot of good players in there, and I wouldn't count any of them out for Luke.
I might give a shout out to Stone. I mean, that guy's he's probably the best striker I've personally played with. I mean, we struggled in the beginning, but now we're getting our quirks in, starting to get in some actual practice going on. I feel like the thing is with Stone is sometimes we put him in cam, and then that's what cuts off his goals. But lately he's been playing striker, and he's been at least scoring a goal a game. So I wouldn't shut him out for the Golden Boot. I mean, I feel like, especially now, our upcoming opponents are a bit easier to say the less. So I feel like we if we take advantage and just give our whole offense up, I feel like Stone can get in some good numbers in.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot of guys from that list. I know Winnie the Kid. I play with him at Cartel for Late Night League, and he's a pretty darn good striker. I mean, he finishes well. He puts himself into some bad situations sometimes with his dribbling, but he is a quality striker, and I wouldn't count him out. I mean, I think he's got the capability to knock some goals in and get up the list too.
Yeah, I'll also throw out Batistuta. He's a very quality striker. I played with him at Man City last season. And really, you have Italiano, you have Eddie Disaster. I mean, Jesus, Stride. Like Dorsey said, all those guys could win the Golden Boot still. So I wouldn't count any of those guys out.
It's still very early in the season. 38 games, and we're at 13 right now. 25 left. This race could easily change, but I think that if you fall behind now, you're going to make it a lot harder on yourself going forward. With that being said, Friolito was challenging for the Golden Boot last season. So I kind of have to throw his name out there with the Atlanta squad. Started off strong, struggling a little bit right now, but they're in 8th, so they're not too far back on the pace. And I think if he comes into form, you could see them go right back up the rankings.
I can say Stride. He's definitely doing work with the number 1. Like, he's not giving all those goals that he wants right now, but most of the balls that Koof gives him, or like whenever I play against him and all that with Tottenham, he always somehow manages to score. He irritates us, but I say maybe later in the games he'll be top 10, top 5.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's move on to League One. Very quickly, the same question posed to Super League, but the top 10 consists currently of Death Row Toll, Shuda, Shamrocks, Death Row with 14, Shuda and Shamrocks with 11, also Hinkley and Leak with 11. Argentino with Monaco has 10, Madison, NYCFC Diggs has 9, as well as Unlucky D-Block, his teammate over there in Orlando. And then rounding out the top 10, we have Everest, who has 8 currently. Same question as before. Who do you expect to kind of run away with this?
I would give a shout out to Diggs. I mean, you got the notorious never unlucky game, and not to mention you got Evo. I feel like, obviously their goal differential's off the charts right now. I feel like once they just get just a few quirks in, I feel like Diggs can really just get back to his shape, get solid form, and get good consistent goals in. I mean, the man's insane, and it did hurt us a bit when he left. But yeah, I have no doubt he can actually contest for that Golden Boot.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out Everest here because Everest has only played 6 games. If you guys look now, I'm a bit partial as he is a striker, but he's played 6 games. He has 8 goals. The guy will finish pretty much every time he gets in front of the net. So I definitely think he'll be up there in the end. It's just all about if he's able to get in a few more games. Obviously, as he's only played about half of this point. But then, as far as the other guy, Rock's been around a long time. He always scores goals. I mean, he's a shooter. Does he have any assists? I'm just joking. He has 2. And then, Hinkley's been around PCN a long time. Like, he's actually a very creative player also. He has 8 assists. It's very impressive. As far as the Valencia guy, Death Row, we played them yesterday, and we skunked him, so I'm not really sure, but he sure is scoring a lot of goals. I don't really know him that well, though. But I'm going to put my money on Everest, to be honest with you.
So Death Row, he was a Super League striker for several seasons and was he didn't bang in 25 or 30, but he was consistently in the 15-ish range, I feel like. And then last year, basically won the goal. I think he tied for the Golden Boot, was one off, and he played 10 games. He scored 22 goals in 10 games or something with Valencia, and he's scoring more than a goal a game with that team. So clearly they know how to find him, and he's finishing well. So I wouldn't count him staying out, out of the top spot. And then I think Leak has always been a really solid Super League level striker, and he's doing his thing right now at Dortmund. If they get a little bit more creativity in around him, I wouldn't be surprised to see him at the top either.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about League One. I know I played with Argentino before, and I know he's a good striker. He always finds a way to score goals. I don't necessarily think he'll finish atop the Golden Boot race, but I think he'll be up there. And also Everest, I've never played with him, but I have heard of him, and I watched the marquee matchup yesterday, and I mean he found a way to score there. So I mean he looks like a pretty good forward to me. So like I said, I don't know a whole lot about League One, but obviously Death Row you can't count him out. I mean he's sitting atop right now, so it's going to be pretty hard for someone to dethrone him if he keeps at the pace that he's going.
I'm gonna say Shamrock won the Golden Boot last season in League One. Already got 13 goals right now, right? This season.
He's 11 right now, but it looks like he's missing a few games in there.
Yeah, but I mean, if he only played like 25 last season and got 28, so definitely got a positive record right there. So I'm gonna say he can win the Golden Boot again this season, and probably get Braga to top. Maybe not. Maybe just stay there like his little ass. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean he's another. When you mentioned Everest, scoring more than a goal a game, you also mentioned Death Row. He's one of them who has 9 games played and 11 goals. So I don't think you can discount him at all. The other 2 people in the top 10 that are doing similarly is NYCFC Diggs, who has 8 in 8 games. He has 9 goals. Unlucky D-Block, 7 games played with 9 goals as well. So there are a number of players in this top 10 that are scoring more than a goal a game. And if you're doing that, you'd certainly have a chance.
Yeah, I would say the only thing holding back, I mean, just like Everest, and I actually know kind of Shamrock's situation because he was on Bayern for a little bit going into the season, is that Shamrock wasn't going to be available on Wednesdays or Sundays. I'm forgetting. I don't want to quote me on that or anything.
One of the two.
Exactly. So and Everest kind of has that same issue. So while they may average a goal a game or more, it's just going to be all about getting the games played in to get the Golden Boot, obviously. So.
Anyone outside of the top 10? We got one from LAFC. We got the Pirates sitting at 12 with 8. Frosty with 8 over at Bayern. With Jay Way over there. Strikeo's Goblin has an interesting stat line. 4 games played and 7 goals. Not sure what's going on there. Should be getting more playing time scoring that much. But also have Spider Monkey and a few other players sitting there at the bottom. Just outside of this race, really. Not too far off the pace.
I think Super League is a little more open because you did have those teams that played in New York City, and I think there's just some guys aren't off to as good a starts as others. But I think League One, when I was looking at it, the top 10 really kind of stood out. I don't see anyone coming out from that side outside of that top 10 and breaking into all the way to the Golden Boot at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is a theme that League One strikers are having trouble getting the games in. I think that the guys at the top right now, like Death Row, it's going to be a lot of it's going to be pretty tough for the guys who are below him to overtake him if he keeps playing games and getting goals and they're missing games. So I think the top 10 is probably going to stay pretty accurate to what it is, in my opinion.
Don't count out the OG Frosty. He's putting in that time this season.
I would have given him a shout out, but I watched the marquee matchup the other night.
He literally could have had 10 goals.
He could have had 2 goals.
Frosty,
right
bro.
Yeah.
What a character. What a character.
He could be in 7th right now with those 2 goals that he sold in the very front of the net. So
I know Frosty's not listening to this, so I don't mind throwing him a little shade. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is no one hits B like Frosty. That's always been the case.
All right. Well, with that being said, we will move on to League 2. Again, posing the same question as always, or at least as the last 2. The top 10 starts off with Josh Anderson over Atletico Madrid with 12 goals. Vega is in there with 11. K-City Soja with 11 as well. King Snow at 10. Elements of God, the recently released Wolverhampton player with 9 goals. Got a striker from Napoli that I'm not going to try and butcher his name. Fear Eriksson, O Bosna, and Roberto, as well as the Mike rounding out the top 10. So our resident League 2 expert, Trev, what do you think of this top 10?
I very recently joined League 2, and I have not... I'm going to be 100% honest. I mean, I've been in League 1 and Super League the first 2 seasons I played, and I paid absolutely no attention whatsoever to League 2. I know that sounds rude, but that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. But from being in for about a week and a half now, the Mike, I play with him at Wolves, and he is a very dynamic player. He always finds space very well, and he finishes very well. And I think he's off to a little bit of a slower start than we expected. We had kind of a weird striker situation going on. As you said, Elements was released, and he was the leading scorer on that team, which Elements is a good buddy of mine, and I was a little surprised by that move. And but I think, Logan seems to think that he isn't the right guy for the job, and Logan's my manager, and I respect his decision. It was a little baffling to see that a guy with 9 games and 11 games or something, or 9 goals in 11 games.
Yeah, with the Wolves, he has 6 games played and 8 goals, and we actually touched on it on the marquee matchup right after he was benched. We were able to show the Wolverhampton on that particular night, and we were a little bit baffled by it ourselves, by his form. Yeah. He was one of the key players.
Yeah, I think Logan had already it was a shame to see the Elements get benched for that game, because I really think we would have won it if he'd had played. But I think Logan had already come up with the decision that he was going to cut him, and we brought in Vicious, who is a really good striker as well. And I think Logan just kind of decided that it was going to be Vicious and Mike up top for the rest of the season, and he wanted to see that pairing in a big game like the marquee matchup, and I think that's ultimately why he decided to bench Elements. Like I said, I wasn't there that night, so I don't know 100% if that was the story or not, but yeah, it was. Elements messaged me and was pretty upset that he got benched for that game, but I mean, like I said, Logan's the manager. It's his decision, and if that's what he decided to do, then I just kind of got to trust him and hope that he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting now seeing him at Fiorentina, who've been one of the best scoring teams early on, pairing with Fear Eriksson. See if the two of them. I think I was kind of looking at the two of them, who are, if they can, it's kind of similar to the Lazio and Lyon situation. There's 2 teams with 2 really good strikers so far, and it's Eriksson and Elements if they can work out a good partnership. And then Snow's not here tonight, but he was supposed to be. But he's playing well at Barcelona, trying to lead the charge. And he just signed Roberto, who's only played 3 or 4 games for them, but he's already got, I think, 7 goals. And he is the only person who scored 40 goals in a season this FIFA. He did it season 9 in the Super League and got the Golden Boot. And if he can just play enough games and he sticks with Barcelona, I don't see how a former Super League Golden Boot winner in this FIFA is not going to win the League 2 Golden Boot.
Yeah, Roberto is really good, and we play Barcelona Wednesday, I believe. I'm not going to be there for that game, unfortunately. I am not able to play Wednesdays this season, but yeah, Roberto is a really good forward, and he was one of the players that as soon as we saw that we were playing Barcelona this week, Logan brought it up in the chat that he was going to be a player that we had to watch. I don't know a lot about the guy, but as you said, Dorsey, he's a former Super League Golden Boot winner on this same game. So, I think he's definitely going to throw his hat in for it. He's going to put the hammer down, and I think you're probably going to see him go on a little bit of a wild streak here.
It's interesting, Dorsey, you touched on it for a second. Just want to expand on it a little bit more. Unlike League One, and I guess somewhat like Super League, there are a lot of pairings on this top 10. You have 2 from Wolverhampton, now one as a former Wolverhampton and now Fiorentina, but he's joined by 2 other Fiorentina players. You also have 2 Barcelona players and 2 Napoli players. So you've got a lot of pairings, kind of a centralized talent on a few teams here. The 2 players that I would point out that aren't necessarily have a pairing next to them is Vega over at Celtic, and then maybe to a lesser extent Josh Anderson. His pairing mate looks like he's in 12th right now with 5 goals. So those 2 are kind of doing it on their own, I'd say.
Touch on him a little bit later, but he's someone I don't know a ton about, but he's scoring a bunch. He's setting up his teammates. He's getting key passes. He's doing it all. And that's a Celtic team that, I think is going to continue to move up the tables as the season goes on. They've seemed like they have a good group. The manager seems really dedicated, and he seems like their talisman. And yeah, sometimes the Golden Boot winner comes from a team with 2 guys in the top 5. Sometimes it comes from a team that, has to be carried by that one striker. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, League 2 is very interesting because it's not like Super League or League 1, because even on their worst day, a bottom Super League team can still, put the boots to a top Super League team. I mean, every team has that talent on it. In League Two, you see 5 or 6 teams that are really quality, and then the bottom half of the league is struggles a little bit. So I think those players that are on the better teams have a better shot at the Golden Boot, but I also, I don't want to count out anybody who's carrying their team, because like Slacks last season at PSG, I mean, he was up there in the Golden Boot race and we were mid-table. So I'm not saying that a top team in a league has to have that player that wins the Golden Boot, but I think it certainly helps.
It'd be interesting to look back at the statistics to see, whether the Golden Boot winner has had a top pairing, or if it's been, more often than not, someone who's doing it pretty much solo. I don't really know the answer to that. I'm at least intrigued to see what that answer is. Is there anyone outside of the top 10 that you think could make a run for it? Any names you know? It's for me personally, it's a lot of people I don't know, which is kind of a good thing. And it seems like the league is expanding more and more, and you're getting people you haven't seen get a chance to be a goal scoring threat.
Yeah, I think this is just going to have to be a bit of a wait and see. Like we said, there's a few names that we've recognized and we know can do it. And then I think every season, League Two, the most, and League One kind of lesser, but still, and then even a few people in Super League, like there's just people that come out of nowhere. It's just because it's their first season, and later on you find out, oh wow, that player was really good at the time. We just didn't know them yet, so we'll kind of find out who those people are this season, I think.
Yep, I feel the same thing because I actually tried to. I looked through the list really hard, and I was trying to come up with something about someone, and there's a lot of new players there, and that's really good for PCN. So good stuff.
Yeah, I would say of that bottom 10, the one player I guess that stands out, he's just outside of the top 10, is Gretzky, sitting there with 8 games played and 7 goals, also to go with 13 key passes. So he's definitely doing the most out of those 10, and he's just outside of the goal race, really, tied with Roberto and the Mike, although, like we said about Roberto, with 3 games played and 7 goals, you could see this changing very drastically his 9th position.
I'm going to say Steel Chicken since he got Steel in there, even though he got that 5 goals. I mean, who knows?
All right. Well, with that being said, we'll move on to our next topic, which is who has been a breakout or a surprise player for each league. We will start with Super League. So who did you guys answer for this? Who's really kind of surprised you this season so far?
Honestly, I put Liverpool Mad Kev. I'm pretty new to PCN. This is only my 3rd season now, and I have absolutely never heard of this guy. I don't have any idea who he is. He might be popular. I have absolutely no idea. But he's in second in the Golden Boot race right now. So, I mean, that kind of shocked me because I'd never heard of him before. But, I mean, maybe he is just a well-known guy and I just don't know him, but that was who I put.
Yeah, he's been around for a few seasons. I think the season 8 in League One, he and Louis had an epic Golden Boot race. They each scored like 45 plus goals, and then since then he's been in Super League. I think he's been solid 15 to 20. But this seems to be his sort of breakout season in the Super League. So he's been around, but I think it's the first time he's been at the top of the charts in a while. And it wouldn't shock me to see him stay there.
Yeah, I know from my response I put Online Ace. It's just because I looked at his stats quite briefly, and then he has 15 key passes and 12 games played, which is pretty good, especially for a winger in a 3-5-2. And then also add to the fact that he was able to secure those top strikers, Spicy, Pancake, and Liverpool Mad Kev. To be frank, they have quite a bit easier schedule starting of the season, but he still managed to put those strikers together. And as I mentioned, I was talking to them briefly yesterday. I'm like, these next weeks they're going against a bit tougher team, so it'll show a true testament of their team if they can keep their first place.
Yeah, it will. But yeah, just to touch on them again real quick. Yeah, Matkev is having breakout seasons. This is the first time Spicy I think has played full-time striker, and he's playing really well, and I got to give him credit. And then Pancake Waffle, I know is someone who's been in and around top Super League, League One. Played. I don't think he's played the full seasons, but he is killing it at Cam this season. And anytime you can find a really good cam in the Super League, like those guys all of a sudden become some of the most desired players in the league. So I'd be curious if Lazio can keep up the goals they've been scoring. But those three have definitely been a key part of it.
It was interesting because you took J-Way's answer from him. He said Spicy Beetle. And, I mean, it's the same reason you were talking about. This is a full-time striker, and he's really taking the position by the horns, so to speak. He's playing really well with that pairing up there with Kev and Pancake as well. So we touched on Lazio last week, or last podcast, as one of the surprise teams. So it's really kind of fitting that a lot of those players from that team that have made that team play so well are on the surprise list for Super League. I think it was Steel Data. Did you have a different answer?
Oh yeah, I had like fucking. It's like I don't know why, but when I'm like seeing clips of Atlanta or like playing against Atlanta, I always just see him right in the middle of the heart of the defense, doing everything that he can just to like not get a shot on target, not get anybody like pass by him at all. Like I really would enjoy like to play with him because he seems like a solid CB that you can rely on a lot.
Foot King had a very good season last season, but I would say this season he's really taken that to the next level. From what I've seen from Atlanta, playing against them and playing or watching them play a few times, they seem really strong at the back with that Foot King and Matty pairing. I think that duo works really well together, and Foot King's really stepped up his play.
Yeah, Foot is quality. He was my anchor at PSG last season, and then Matty was on the right. So I know a lot about both of those guys, and Foot is a really good center back. I mean, he takes the game very seriously, and he does everything he can to not concede goals. I play with him at Cartel as well for late night, so he is definitely a top CB, I would say, and Matty's also really quality too, and he's a guy that you haven't heard a lot about. He's kind of come onto the scene as a top center back in Super League 2, kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I got a couple defenders on my list as well. Lazo 10 from Man City. I remember Meat kept trying to hype him up last season, and he had pretty good stats for the whole season. He kind of went under the radar when he was in New York City, and he's having an even better season now with Man City. And I remember we played them twice in the World Cup, and like he's just been an animal in the DM position. So he's been a standout. And then Varane for Spurs has really kind of, I think, been Badger to a lesser extent at left back, but I think Varane has really been an excellent Super League center. So those are the two I kind of wanted to throw out there.
All right. Any last surprises before we move on to League One?
I mean, someone that really kind of stood out, I mean, not in some sort of crazy way, honestly, whenever I was looking at the stats for Super League, was Clutch on Manchester United. A lot of interceptions, a lot of defensive stats, a good amount of passing points. Like, he's playing really good from the DM position. And I know he's kind of switched around a lot throughout his PCN career, so those are some really good stats right there.
I think that's a good shout out. He's been a solid player, but he's played a lot of different positions. But I think it's a similar Man U group, but it's a little bit revamped this season, and table right now is still figuring things out. But I think Clutch is one of the players who's kind of taking that next step.
Yeah, I'll just add one last thing. I would like to give a shout out to Bryson in Manchester City. If you look at them, they're 10th place, and not long ago they were bottom of the table. Wani was the only Simplicity player there, but through Wani, Bryson and Moneybags were able to join. So having people with chemistry, really helped them out. They're sitting mid-table with 21 points. It's not too bad. He really made an impact in that team.
All right. Well, with that being said, we will move on to the League One surprise / breakout player. J-Way, you love yourself some home cooking. Who was your answer here?
So yeah, as far as my breakout player, if I had to go from my side personally right now, because I'd say we were having a really good season, is Horrocks. Probably someone y'all don't even know very well or at all. It's his first season at PCN, and while he may have had a little mishap there on the marquee matchup the other night, with one of their goals, he's come in and taken charge at the center back position, along with Dr. Galactica, who's been in PCN a while. So as far as my breakout players, Bayern right now has the best defense in League One as far as goals against. So I would have to go with them. I'd have to go with my defenders back there, and especially the center back pairing in the back. So definitely a shout out to Horrocks and Dr. Galactico.
Actually, shout him out too. I think from playing with him at Bad Boys and then watching a couple Bayern games, he definitely seems like, for someone completely new to the league, he seems like one of your
and he's a 16-year-old man. Like we're teaching him from the ground up, man. He's a project, and I love it.
Vanquish, you had a surprise that's not such a good surprise.
Yeah, not a very good surprise.
Yeah.
Well, I put down that I'm surprised about B-God and Spartan. I mean, there's like two Super League experienced players, but the main thing I'm surprised was I had I guess you would say, privilege. I played with him during AFCON, and Spartan was lights out. I mean, he got he got the team of the season AFCON. B-God was having a couple goals, good amount of assists. And I thought, at the beginning, before the whole season started, I was like, oh my gosh, they're teamed up in League One. They're going to tear it up. Instant golden boot for either of them too. And then when I looked at the list, they're not even on the top. So I was just shocked because personally playing with them, I mean, they're really solid strikers. So I don't know. I think that there has to be some quirks then in that Madrid offense, because I know they're capable of much more.
Right. And I play with them when I'm able to play on the late night league, which isn't very often. I think I've only made maybe 1 or 2 game nights. I do know that they're a little bit frustrated with that attack. I don't know they quite have the answer right now, but I also have heard from their camp that they're not practicing as much as they like, or really at all. So I think that is kind of playing into the not having the chemistry up front. And I don't see how they're going to fix their issues without practicing more.
Yeah, I'll add that to the practice. I feel like, I mean, in all honesty, practice is sort of like almost necessary. But I think where it comes really crucial is the offense. Offense, you need to practice. You need to build that chemistry up, see how each other play, see how you just plan out the attack. Defense, honestly, if obviously practice won't hurt, but if you do your job, you'll be fine. Goalkeeper, same thing. As long as the goalkeeper plays, he'll be fine. But offense needs to practice. I mean, that's what we were struggling with Benfica. Our offense wasn't really mixing up, but we're starting to get in some small practices going in. But yeah, I feel like if Madrid actually practiced, especially just their offense, they can turn that around easily.
As far as Real Madrid, like, I've played with a lot of those guys. Like, so has Dorsey, so has a lot of us. Those are quality players. Like, bottom line, the whole team, consistent quality players. So there's no doubt in my mind that if they cared, I don't know how much the care factor is too, because I mean, if you're not practicing a lot, that care factor is not very high. And I think we all know, to win championships, normally, unless you're Pirates of Season 8, you you need to care, and you need to put that time in. So I definitely think they're going to bounce back. They are in first. I think, aren't they tied for second or tied for third? Like, they're up there. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, League One's really close, but they did have a better game day on last night. And,
yeah. And, someone that I wanted to shout out real quick, and I want Dorsey to kind of say something about him because he's going to be mad at me if I don't, is Cream Cheese. He's been in PCN for, 5 seasons, 6 seasons. He's having the best season of his PCN career. And, he's definitely a goofball, and everyone knows him as that, but he's putting in some real time this season. And honestly, he's helping me run Bayern. He's putting in a lot of time, so definitely want to shout him out because he's got 5 goals, 5 assists in 12 games. So
I like how he Cream Cheese. He changed his gamer tag twice, and then after that, he changed it back to that Cream Cheese.
Yeah, Y balls only.
He
lost his mind.
Like 2 or 3 seasons ago, and everyone who talked to him was like, "You're dumb. You need to change it." And after a couple weeks, he changed it. So some people, you just can't get away from your name, so don't even try.
Yeah. Well, whenever people have like how many people have Cream Cheese on their friends list, and then they suddenly have Y balls only or some other weird name, that a lot of people have probably deleted him by now.
Yeah, I saw that. I was about to say, who is this? I was about to remove him.
Yeah.
I realized it was Cream Cheese.
And then a couple people for me, I haven't really seen them play too much, but their stats are just kind of overwhelming. Luca Brasi in goal for Schalke is really doing bits. Got a lot of saves, kept a lot of goals out. I think he's got pretty much the best kind of save to goal allowed ratio in the league right now. And then Xrif Too Tall from Sevilla is, I don't know if this is his very first season or just like his maybe second or third, but he's never played this much and he's never dominated like he has been for a really kind of surprising Sevilla team that's in the race there for promotion. So just want to give a quick shout out to those two. I'd like to watch you guys at some point, but for the time being, just keep up the good work.
I would be remiss if I didn't do some home cooking of my own and say Misfit. The last time he played 20 or more games was in season 6. And season 7, he had 15. Season 8, he had 14. And really hasn't played much since season 8. So it's been 3 seasons. He already has 6 games played, 3 goals, 4 assists, and 7 key passes. He's been kind of doing everything for our Dortmund squad, which is a little bit on the struggling side for attack. Our defense is one of the better ones in League One.
That's a good shout. Misfit's a really, really good striker. He just has not had the availability for a long time. But yes, that's a great shout. I'm glad to see him back there with League at Dortmund.
Well, with that, we will move on to the League 2 surprise breakout player. Kind of broad range of answers, kind of with the last 2 questions. Who do you guys think is your breakout or surprise player?
I put Elements of God. I'm happy for him. I mean, he's been in part of PCN for 4 seasons. Got his first ever team of the week in League 2, so I'm happy that he found the league where he can shine. I hope he keeps his form. I mean, it's sad that he got released from Wolves, but he found another good team in League 2. And yeah, I'm just happy for him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I played with him season 8 at Bayern, which either was his first or maybe he played a little bit season 7. And we just that was just that was just not a good team. But like we didn't get relegated, but he played a lot of striker. He didn't score a whole lot, but I think the last couple seasons he's improved and he's gotten more goals. He just hasn't been able to find the one team who's willing to give him that shot for a full season. So hopefully Fiorentina will be that home for him.
Yeah, I played with him over at Lazio for I think about a season and a half, around there, maybe a season. Again, reiterate what everyone's already said. A really good guy. Didn't quite make it happen at Lazio, whether it was related to the midfield or whatever it may have been. But it is good to see him get a team of the week, and hopefully he's able to continue his form with Fiorentina over there.
Trev, isn't he like your best friend?
Yeah. I mean, he's a good buddy of mine. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I played with him. Me and you both played with him, Vanquish, at Atletico in season 9.
Yep.
And he was struggling to find form then.
Yeah.
But I think deep down he's got it inside of him to be a really good striker. I think he's kind of a goofy character and he makes some mistakes occasionally, but I think League 2 is a good. I mean, he's kind of restarted. I mean, he started in League 1 and he jumped up to Super League and now he's bumped down to League 2, and I think it's kind of a fresh start for him to get.
He actually started off in Super League. I think Bayern was his first ever season, as Dorsey was saying.
And I don't think he was quite ready for that level yet.
No, yeah.
And there's players who bounce up, bounce down. At the point where the very best player in League 2 is better than a lot of people in Super League. The very best players and the very worst players in Super League maybe wouldn't be able to cut in League 2. Like at this point, it's just big enough that it just depends on. It kind of depends on what team you want to find, like what you value in a team and where you can thrive at. And some people play better on a better team in a lower league. Some people play better on a struggling team in a higher league. It comes down to your personality, your fit, and it's just there's so many factors that come down to when you play well, I think, as a player.
I'm gonna say shout out to Snow. Like already has the same goal tally as he had last season. Had like 24 games last season. Now he's only played 12. Already got the same goal tally. I say he surprised me a lot. He definitely did good with Dortmund last season, but this season with Barca, I say he can definitely carry them to like League 1 again. I don't know why he went down to League 2, but I mean,
it was to bring Barcelona back because he's a big Barcelona fan.
Oh, and shit! No, I would have put the top tier.
Yeah, no, he because he basically gave up. He had a League 1 team and he gave them up to go down to League 2. To bring Barcelona back. So that's dedication in terms of doing it for your team. So yeah, both those guys, to me, they're not maybe breakouts because they've been around long enough. One name we touched on earlier was Vega for Celtic. Is it someone who I think is pretty new? Like I said, lots of goals, lots of assists, lots of key passes, and then Cyanide Zombie. I know he's trying to maybe leave Napoli. I'm not sure what the issue is there, but another DM in the lower leagues who's just absolutely killing it, and I'm sure he'll find a home somewhere if people want to check out his stats and look at what he's been doing.
I will say another person. I've known this man since like FIFA 16 was tested new, like from Barcelona, like playing left back. I think. I don't know why he like came back to PCN, but seeing his stats, already getting like 15 defensive tackles, like I knew he was a good left back, but I mean, I say he's definitely doing work for Barca, helping them in the D.
Yeah, I threw Logan up there, my manager. I'd never heard of him really until this season. I started playing with Cartel and he was on there, and I mean, like I said, I'm pretty new. I don't know if he's been around for a while or not, but I've played with a lot of really good center backs and I'd never really heard of him. And now that I'm on Wolves and I'm playing with him at Cartel, he seems to have established himself as a really good center back in PCN too. So I think I don't know, Saul, if that's who I put exactly. I can't really remember who I put on the questionnaire, but I think that was who I put.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a defensive rock for us at Wolves, and he's been playing really good in late night league with us at Cartel too. So that's who I put.
Any more League 2 players?
Shout out to Kush. Good cam. Getting good key passes.
Yeah, Kush has really been killing it at Wolves for us. He's a really quality player. That's a good shout.
All right. Well, with that, we will move to our last topic of the evening, which is a user-submitted question, and it kind of touches on things that we've already touched on a little bit with the strikers, but it kind of expanding to all of the positions, which is which players are the most consistent at their respective positions. Doesn't necessarily have to be Super League, League 1, or League 2. Could be any of them. But which ones do you see most consistent at attackers, midfield, defense, and keeper?
I got you. So since I kind of went in a, blowing up Bayern a little bit earlier, and we're kind of a newer team, so consistency among our players, I'm not going to go there, but, I'm almost going to feel like I'm going after Milan now. But a couple guys I'd want to talk about are the guy who's on the podcast here, Dorsey. I'm not sure how he hasn't gotten a damn player of the year season so far. He's always there at DM, always up there in interceptions, usually first in possessions won. Like, he's a monster, obviously, at DM. And then I wanted to shout out Peanut, too, from AC Milan. I mean, kind of a goofball, but the man can play some defense, and he's always been really consistent now for how many seasons. It's just whether you can get him to stay focused and stay on the team the entire season, right?
Yeah, Peanut's kind of inconsistently consistent. Like, every season he's going to be one of the better defenders, but it's like game day to game day. You just don't know exactly which Peanut you're going to
get. Right. And then I'm going to shout out Phil because, I mean, as long as I've been in PCN, Phil is the best keeper. I mean, bottom line, he's been the best keeper for how many seasons now? Shit, he's got to be the best keeper in the history of PCN easily. So those three guys, give them a shout out. Oh, and then I'm going to throw in Magic there as my striker. Magic's been in this league a long time. He's a cool cat, and he's actually doing really well this season. So hopefully he's up there in the top 5 with Golden Boot. And I didn't really mention him earlier, but he could definitely be there.
Yeah, I have to second Phil. That when I got to this question, that was the very first name I thought of because, like Jay said, I mean, I think he has 6 straight team seasons now. Like, you only get 2 keepers in a team season, and every season he switches teams pretty much every season too, but he stays on that team the whole season, and he ends up in the top 3 for like saves and clean sheets every season. He makes his teams better.
He's a goat.
He really is the GOAT. And, Darkberry for me was another goalie. I think last few seasons has kind of gotten to that, similar to that level, but I think he's still got work to do to get to Phil's level. And then I do think Magic last season, I think, was about his roughest season he's ever had. He's generally been about a goal a game striker. He's back to that this season, looks like, through United. So he is on my striker list.
Yeah, but he wasn't playing striker the whole time last season.
No,
so,
it was. I think it was just kind of an off. Some players sometimes you just have an off season. You get moved around. Your team doesn't do what you think it will. He had issues at United, but he's playing better this season. And then I think someone we mentioned earlier with the Golden Boot is Lupe. The guy hasn't played full season every season for PSG, but he's pretty much been one of the best strikers in the league ever since the league's been going, since about season 3 or 4, and he's maintained his goal rate that entire time. It's not like he's dipped as the quality of the league has gone up. He continues to deliver despite PSG not always having the best team around him. So got a big shout out to him as well.
I think for strikers, I had Stride, Chronic, and those two guys are. I mean, they're constantly. I mean, they're scoring goals. That's as a striker, that's what you want. And I think you hear about them every season. At least as the 3 seasons I've been in PCN, those are the two guys that you always hear about scoring goals constantly.
Yep. And Stride's been doing it since season 1 or 2 as well. So that's another one like Lupe who's done it the entire time he's been here.
Yeah. Midfielders, I had Rambo, beast of a DM. I've played with him. I've had the privilege of playing with him a couple times, and he's an absolute unit. Jammy is also a really quality DM. Play with him for late night. He is really, really good too.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. Jammy, badass.
Yeah, he was on my list as well.
And then Kufavelli was my third midfielder that I put. He's a really, really good cam. I mean, he makes space.
He's a striker.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh well, he was playing cam when I played him the other day.
Yeah,
so
he's a creative striker. He's played some cam.
Yeah, he's a striker, but he's a creative. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are all really good choices. Jamie was on my list. A couple of the ones I threw out there in the midfield. Realms hasn't played yet for Juve this season, but for about 4 or 5 seasons in a row, I think he was the best DM in Super League, and it was a key piece to those Juventus title teams.
Yeah, he doesn't lose the ball.
He's insane. He really, really is. But yeah, no, Realms, he's a different style than Rambo. Realms just does the job perfectly, and he doesn't make mistakes. And so I got to shout him out. And then Swifty, some people don't love Swifties, but the guy has been at the top of the assist and key passes mark for 5 or 6 seasons now. Every season, wherever he goes, he produces and sets his team up. So got to shout out him too.
Yeah, I'll really quickly just shout out Swifties too. I mean, he made a move to Benfica this season. And in my mind, I was thinking, is he going to play a lot? Is he going to get PT there? And there he is starting. That just proves how much quality he is.
I'm going to shout out definitely Stride. Definitely be consistent the whole season for attacking. I'm going to say Chronic. I haven't heard a lot from him, but throughout this season and last season, he's definitely been more in the top 10 for goal scorers. So I definitely give both of them credit for that. For the midfield, I'm going to shout out Champagne. I played with him with Congo, a rock at DM, and a rock at Liverpool. Definitely one of the reasons why they got such a tight defense right now, an awesome defense. I'm gonna shout out also Pauly for my team since I'm biased. Even though everybody knows about Pauly nowadays, he always does work. He's just one simple guy. Just plays his role in the DM, a sole defensive midfielder, just doing his thing. He likes playing alone sometimes in the DM role. And just getting those interceptions in, getting those balls in, making sure counterattacks are straight. I give him credit for that. I'm gonna say Varane, man. Definitely one of the reasons why Tottenham is in the top 7 still, in the defensive role, or in general, just keeping us tight and all that. When I'm never there, or just to help him, or in general, he always just steps up. Always got to respect for that. Also, Adam. I fucking love Adam. Please come back to our team, bro. I miss you in America. Please just come back. Always consistent for the CB role. Always rocks it. Goalkeeper, I'm going to definitely say APOC, for me, he's the best in PCN right now. I'm going to say he's better than Phil the Fish. I don't care what anybody else says. APOC is better. He can talk back. He can.
All right, this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm just going to say Phil is the GOAT. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You watch the guy play, and he is absolutely phenomenal. And that's, I'm kind of cringing a little bit saying that right now because I put myself up there with some of the best in PCN, but he is. I mean, I don't even come close to Phil. He's an absolute animal. But I will back APOC. I mean, I hadn't heard of the guy until the last couple seasons, but me and him have become pretty good buds through GK Nation, which is a chat we started on Discord, and he is a phenomenal keeper as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Trev, because the one thing, about this question about being the most consistent, APOC really came on the scene last season when he got featured towards the end of the season in a marquee matchup. People saw him balling out, and then since then, his stock has kind of gone up. Phil has been doing this for a long time, and he's always at the top. I think if you're considering most consistent keepers, I think it's hard to go with someone other than Phil.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Phil's the best of all time in the history of PCN. I've looked back at his stats from previous seasons because, like I said, I've only been here for 3 seasons, but like I take goalkeeping very seriously on FIFA, and I've looked back at his stats, and he is an absolute unit. I mean, there's no one who's even. I don't think there's anyone who's ever going to come close to what he's done in his seasons, and it proves it. I mean, he's 6 straight team of the seasons. I mean, especially for a goalkeeper, it changes. So with every FIFA, goalkeeping changes, and to be able to be that consistent over that many FIFAs it's incredible how good he is.
Also, just to say about Phil too, which is really crazy, is that he doesn't talk a lot. Like I actually can't even remember a voice conversation that I really had with the guy. So he just kind of keeps quiet and keeps the goals out of the net. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there really isn't anyone who compares in the long run. I will say Kermit, who retired after last season, was a really consistently top 5 goalie for about 4 or 5 seasons with a few teams, and I miss playing with him. He was a really good player, but yeah, I think it goes back to, I think Saul said it best. Like APOC right now, like he had a great season last year in League One. He's playing really well for Spurs right now, but yeah, for me this season, I mean, especially this question, especially for me because I've been around for so long. It's about the guys who've been doing it for season after season after season. And the last couple guys I want to shout out, just a couple of defenders because we haven't really touched on any defenders. Is Matthias. Matthias got found by Italiano back in those really good Juve teams, and pretty much been one of the best center backs in the league ever since. He's never put up huge tackle, interception, or possession numbers, but I think his like clean sheet per game ratio is about the best there's ever been because the guy just anchors a really good defense. Also, I think Lil Perp is someone from Inter Milan who doesn't get the love he deserves, and the longer he plays, I think the longer I at least personally recognize how good he is, and I think people in Inter Milan are always trying to shout him up. And then Bauer, who's playing mid now, he's played some wide mid, but he kind of originally was a fullback. And then he played center back at Young Boys for a couple seasons. He can play DM, center back, fullback, outside mid. He's gotten better. He's always been consistent. He's always been good, but I think he's just gotten to another level in the last couple seasons. And for you people who haven't played him or played against him, like he's just such a solid player. He doesn't make mistakes. His positioning is perfect. And if you try to go on him one-on-one, you're just not going to get past him.
Yeah, there's 2 players.
Is that a challenge?
I think it is a challenge. It's an active challenge. There's 2 defenders that I think need mentioning. I'm glad you touched on some of them. I'm a fellow center back myself, but Austin, I think, has been very consistent the last few seasons. And then to go along with that, regarded in the CB world as one of the best is Unix. I mean, Unix has been doing it for a long time now, and he's taught actually a lot of the defenders that are now some of the better ones. So that kind of speaks volumes to how consistent he is.
Yeah, Unix is a great shout. I got to play with him in Man City a bit. He doesn't talk, and I really wish he would, because I like a center back who talks, but he is an absolute rock. And I remember him at PSG, is like season 6 or 7, and like I remember playing this dude, and I was like, this dude's an absolute baller, and no one knew who he was at the time. A couple of seasons later, he was like the most in-demand center back pretty much in the entire league. So that's definitely a good shout.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Austin, Saul, because I had him. I think I put him on my list. He's been quality for the last few seasons that I've been playing against him. I've never had the privilege of playing with him, but I've always noticed that anytime we play against him, my strikers have a hell of a hard time getting past him. So he's a really quality center back.
One of the best defenders in the league, bar none. He has a lot of EGN, APL experience. Like he's one of the best center backs in the league, no doubt.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for the third episode of Season 11. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining me, and thank Dorsey as well for co-hosting this bad boy with me. And we will be back hopefully in a week's time for the fourth episode. Thanks, everyone. Take care.